So WHO, the World Health Organization, who puts out an international list of recognized diseases, is on the cusp of listing love of video games as a recognized mental disorder, which would officially be called gaming disorder. The definition would go something along the lines of this: persistent or recurrent gaming behavior characterized by an impaired control over gaming, increased priority given to gaming over other activities to the extent that gaming takes precedence over other interests and daily activities, and continuation of gaming despite the occurrence of negative consequences. Which all those things sound bad, but they could also all be misdiagnosed by anybody who just loves to freaking game. Maybe they don't like the environment that they're in because they have a crackhead mom and a drunken dad. They don't want to go to grandma's house, so they're playing games instead. There are at least 26 scientific and medical scholars who are pushing back, saying in basic layman terms, what the hell are you thinking? Because in over 20 years of research on this, there's still no conclusive evidence that this is actually a thing. And the research in the health organization is relying on flimsy or inconclusive evidence at best, and it actually represents a real danger. And what are they going to look at? You know, what if you pick up a new game and you go on a binge where you stay up late playing it, you go to bed thinking about it, you wake up early to play it, maybe you call in sick to work or to school or whatever just to play that game? Do you now have a mental disorder? Because I've actually done that with a few titles that were really good. And then, you know, things kind of go back to normal over time. Have I then cured myself of this mental disorder? You know, and how is that any difference from sitting on the couch all day long, binge watching a show on Netflix? Are we going to now have a Netflix mental disorder as well? And the whole thing is ridiculous, especially when you look at the real reason they're doing it. One of the leading scholars who is opposing this classification wrote a letter to the board, and he was talking about the reasons why this shouldn't be put into classification as a real mental disorder. And his name is Dr. Chris Ferguson of the Department of Psychology at Stetson University. And he published this open letter where he wrote to the World Health Organization, and they replied back to him explaining that, you know, they understood his concerns. They are aware that they themselves realize that the data that they're using is at best very controversial, but they said they're being pressured by Asian countries as well as stakeholders. So, not pressured by science, not pressured by data, pressured by Asian countries' politics as well as stakeholders to make up this label and have a gaming disorder. So again, for those of you who didn't catch it, they're saying it's politics and not science. How many studies have we talked about that have tried to prove links between real-world violence and video games? And they failed. And so it looks like they're basically giving up on this approach since it didn't work, since the data and the science doesn't show what they wanted to show. So now they're just gonna, you know, label people who really love video games as being screwed up in the head and having a mental disorder. And again, do you think there's a mental illness for people who love and are addicted to reading, who maybe spend insane amount of hours and times in a library? Maybe they're researching for a book, maybe they're just really enjoying it. Who cares? They're spending way too much time reading. Maybe sometimes they skip a bathroom break in order to keep reading a chapter. You think they have a mental disorder? No. It's just video games that are dangerous. And of course, this brings about a whole host of dangers because this one is going to have a new panic for uninformed parents, which many parents are uninformed. They're going to be fearful that their kids, because they like a video game, that they now have a mental problem. And it's just going to be a new stigma for millions of kids growing up, living a normal, healthy life, and also enjoying video games. But not only that, it literally places people in physical danger, primarily kids. There's already a lot of Asian countries, the same group who's pushing for this, who they send these kids to these camps. They're like concentration camps for people who are addicted to the internet or games. And this is a place where kids are sent so they can be quote unquote cured. And in China, there's actually been at least 6,000 kids who have had to endure electroshock therapy because they were told they use the internet too much. If I lived in China, I probably would have already been put through this therapy because I'm on the internet all freaking day. I have to use it for my job, and I also use it for my hobby, which is YouTube. So I'm on the internet quite a bit, and I sure don't feel like I have a mental disorder. You can find numerous examples where society has used mental illness as a weapon to silence groups or individuals, or maybe it's just to make some money. I mean, how many normal, active kids are misdiagnosed as having ADD and overprescribed drugs to kill their energy just so mom and daddy and a boring-ass teacher can be a little bit more comfortable? So I'm sure that if this does get passed, there's going to be a nice little drug from your favorite drug dealers in the white coats. It's going to make little boys and girls enjoy video games just a little less with a nice little pill. And all we need is mommy and daddy's money for it. So if this passes, just know that it's because of politics and stakeholders and not based on science. And there's numerous scholars who are against and currently fighting this idea. You know, people game for many different reasons. Maybe you just really like the game. But again, there's people who have PTSD, which there was a study that if you watch VGN, I literally posted it, I think, in the last week, where there was a study that said video games help with people who have PTSD. Maybe you're depressed and you grow up in a terrible atmosphere where you got a drunken dad, you got a crackhead mom, and gaming is your escape. It's your escape to keep from hearing your family constantly fighting or something like that. People play games for all sorts of different reasons, but simply looking at a video game and labeling that as the evil culprit and not looking at other underlying issues, especially when there's no solid evidence to support it by labeling video games as the evil culprit, to me, that just doesn't sound like very good science to me. That does it for me, the Red Dragon. You want to read more, links down in the description box. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Are you listening? Damn.